On June 18, 2018, at 7:56 p.m., a dramatic 911 call was received by the Boulder Police Department. The caller was an 11-year-old boy named Michael Jones, stating that he had just discovered his mother's body dead on the laundry room floor. In the background, a man can be heard screaming.
Please help me! He's not breathing! Please help me!
The police quickly dispatched Deputy Mike Perry to the scene. The footage that you're looking at now was recorded on Mike Perry's body cam. Within minutes, he arrived at the grounds of the Ponderosa Mobile Home Park at 4475 North Broadway.
Hello?
The person you are looking at kneeling on the ground is 47-year-old Scott Jones. The woman laying on the floor just outside of our view is Scott's wife, Deborah DePinto. The couple had been married for over 10 years, raising their 2 children, an 11-year-old son and a 13-year-old daughter. Tragically, their son is also in the room with them.
Please help me.
Did you find her here?
I don't know. You've got to help my wife. You've got to help my wife.
They got
my whole life, dude. Please help her. Please. Oh my God.
Take a deep breath, okay? The best people that can possibly be working on her, okay? We got paramedics on her, all right?
Oh my God.
Let's see what's going on.
Deputy Perry immediately administered CPR, and within minutes, the EMTs arrived on the scene. During this time, they couldn't help but notice Scott's strange behavior. When they asked Scott exactly what happened, Scott stated that Deborah was complaining that the laundry room was excessively warm and she found it hard to breathe, before she suddenly collapsed. He then explained that he believed that Deborah could have had a heart attack brought on by her weight or some other medical condition.
He's like 220 pounds, man. I told her, man. You gotta take care.
He would bounce back and forth between emphasizing how much she meant to him, detailing her risky drug use, and her unhealthy weight.
We got her.
Bro, should you hold your hand or something?
I know, but they're taking care of her right now, okay?
I don't know.
Always hear about it.
Smokes that damn pipe where they heat up the end and they stick it in that stuff.
Oh, God.
That's my whole life in there, man. That's my whole life. Oh my God, Mama. Oh God.
In situations where a parent just passed away, it is typical for the surviving parent to provide comfort to their child. However, in this particular case, Scott appeared to be somewhat disengaged or disinterested in his children. Given that his son was still in the room with them, officers asked about the whereabouts of his daughter. His response was, "I do not know."
I don't know.
Deborah DePinto was quickly loaded into the ambulance and rushed to Boulder's emergency center. Shortly after arriving at the Boulder Health Foothills Community Hospital, Deborah succumbed to her injuries. Although at this point there was no clear indication of foul play, the detectives asked Scott to join them in the police department following standard procedure. Detective Don Dillard of the Boulder County Sheriff's Office was tasked with leading the investigation and conducting the interview with Scott. Scott stuck to his account of the events that occurred in the laundry room that evening. According to him, Deb was grasping for air and struggling to breathe before she abruptly collapsed.
I don't know, dude. Like, she went like this. She started going like that and stuff.
He also went on to explain that although he and Deborah were separated, they had been amicably co-parenting their 2 children. Scott spoke positively of his relationship with Deb, asserting that the two had no issues and worked well together as parents. He would constantly reinforce that he loved his wife and that he had absolutely nothing to do with her death.
I love my wife and she loves me, man. And I have no idea how that went down like that today, dude.
Okay.
When she fell, yeah, she was face down. She fell.
Did something happen in that room that...
No way, man. No way.
I mean, I know accidents happen. If you're arguing, did something happen that went too far? Did she have a heart attack and die?
No, man.
The interrogation went on for several hours, and without receiving any incriminating information, the detectives were still unable to charge Scott. Exhausted and wanting to be with his children, Scott requested permission to go home.
I'm tired. I want to get my kids home. And I've answered a lot of questions. I've been very cooperative.
Within moments of Scott leaving the interrogation room, a call was received by the sheriff's office that changed the course of the investigation. Deputy Mike Perry, who was the first officer to arrive at the scene, received a phone call from the manager of the Ponderosa Mobile Home Park. The call was regarding a video that the manager had discovered on one of the surveillance cameras. The park manager quickly uploaded the video to a shared Google Drive and sent the link to the detectives.
put up a Google Drive. I downloaded the video. It's an hour long. If you need more, I just got chills up in my spine. I couldn't watch it.
The footage he is referring to was actually obtained from a makeshift hidden camera that the manager had placed inside the laundry shed to catch people stealing. Detectives decided to set up a computer in order to play this recording for Scott. What you're about to see is the surveillance footage captured from inside and outside the laundry room shed during the moments that Deborah died.
So this is the video that we were talking about.
At around 6:50 p.m., an exterior surveillance camera captured the daughter heading to the car, while Scott and Deb made their way from the trailer towards the park's shared laundry room. At this point, it appears that the two were already engaged in a serious argument.
I thought there was some common sense with you.
Well, I thought he knew that you don't think we're moving in there.
He doesn't know.
I didn't. So that's why you tell me. What are you doing over there? I'm getting one. Get out of here. It's common sense. We're fighting for an hour over nothing. I'm done. We are never going to be together.
You're so cruel. Is that all you got, cruel and mean?
You're in my way.
Weird.
No, whatever. Get away from me.
Get away from me.
Oh, don't touch me. Stop. You can't force me to love you anymore. Get out of the... Where's the door? I'm trapped. Get away from me. You make me feel terrible. Get away from the door.
The audio captured sounds like it could be a physical altercation, lasting for approximately 90 seconds. The confrontation concludes around 7 p.m., at which point the audio goes silent. The details of the event were still unclear. However, the audio recording captured a new sound. This time, the distinct sound of a dryer. In the background, Scott's heavy breathing was discernible, suggesting that he was likely pacing back and forth in the room. As Scott watched along, his reaction revealed a complete lack of awareness regarding the presence of a camera in the laundry room. He anxiously denied any involvement in the laundry room, despite video evidence clearly indicating that something terrible had occurred at that precise moment.
That doesn't prove anything, and you know that.
It shows us that something happened in that room. What's going on during that time?
The timestamp on the video recording revealed that Scott had remained in the laundry room alongside his wife's body for approximately 47 minutes before he is seen again on camera.
This entire time you're still there with her. What are you doing? Are you looking at her? Are you trying to figure out what to do next? Help me.
The video then captures a visibly distressed Scott as he exits the laundry room, walking past the camera towards the front door, then continuing to pace uneasily.
Oh my God.
It is at this point Scott finally steps out of the room. He was captured on an exterior camera as he made his way toward the camper. The footage then follows him as he returns to the laundry room, this time accompanied by their 11-year-old son, Michael.
He's gone, man. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Scott's decision to bring his son to the laundry room and see his unconscious mother seemed very unusual for a parent. From the video footage, Scott had spent almost an hour after his altercation with Deb waiting in the laundry room. It is common for individuals who find themselves in a similar situation as Scott's to deliberately craft a narrative about the incident. Scott taking his son to the laundry room could be interpreted as a way for him to use his son to add more credibility to his story.
Mama, wake up! Mama, please! Oh, God! Oh, my God! Please!
Not only did Scott expose Michael to his dead mother's body, but he even went as far as to persuade Michael to call 911. At 7:56 p.m., Michael proceeded to dial 911 on Scott's phone. When asked by the dispatcher to provide more details about his mother's condition, he was heard saying, "Mom is purple. She is cool to the touch with a bruise on the bridge of her nose." The 911 dispatcher went on to ask for their address, at which time Michael handed the phone to Scott. Scott can be heard screaming, "Please help me."
Please help me! He's not breathing! Please help me!
As emergency units rushed to the scene, Deb's 13-year-old daughter, who had been spotted walking to Deb's car earlier, was still seated inside the vehicle. From her statement, she had received a text message asking where she was and that Mom's dead, but she did not respond due to fear. It later emerged that her brother Michael had used Scott's phone to send her the message. She said that she was not sure if the text was real, but was scared regardless. She also expressed concerns about her own safety, unsure if she would be next. Scott continued to deny any wrongdoing on his part, but with further evidence mounting caught on camera, Scott's loving attitude towards his wife began to take an interesting turn.
Hey, where do we go from here, man? I need a lawyer, don't I?
It was at this point in the interrogation that officers walked into the room and told Scott that he was being placed under arrest for the murder of his wife.
Do me a favor, stand up.
As Scott's handcuffs click into place, he says to the detective, "There's no hurry."
Do you want to keep talking to me? Because if you do, I have to read you.
Well, where do we go? Let's talk our options. Let's discuss our options then.
This is where the pacing of the interrogation completely shifts. Instead of denying any involvement, Scott is now willing to cooperate with the sheriff's office.
But I didn't think anything through. I didn't think about anything. I just reacted. I don't know what happened. I just reacted. I don't know, man. It's nuts.
As the questioning gets more intense, Scott starts to recall moments leading up to the incident in the laundry room, but also tries to make it clear that there was no premeditation. Scott also states that Deb was a cruel person, pushing him to his limit and causing him to snap. It is possible that Scott says this with the hopes that the court will deem this as a crime done with malice but without premeditation. If a defendant is found guilty of committing a crime involving killing with malice but without premeditation, the conviction carries a lesser sentence than if it was committed with premeditation.
What happened?
I don't know. You think I am not kicking out myself? You don't think I feel bad?
Well, I know you were.
Oh man, it wasn't good enough. I'm taking the kids. You ain't taking my kids. Threatening me with me, man. With me. Just couldn't stop being a monster. Couldn't stop being cruel, man. You don't know what she's done to me. You don't know the cruelty she's done, man.
They observed a change in the way Scott spoke about his wife. At first, he had described her as the love of his life, but that sentiment changed as he began to paint her as an evil person, suggesting that she provoked his momentary lapse in judgment. It also becomes clear that Scott may have been attempting to establish an insanity defense by blaming his actions on mental distress caused by Deborah's cruel treatment, likely with the aim of absolving himself from any responsibility.
I believe it makes a man temporarily insane for a minute, man, when you think about it. You know that? You don't know the troubles. You don't know the pain. You don't know what I've endured. You don't know what that woman put me through. You don't know what she did to my son. You don't know.
This shift in behavior and story reflects a common tendency amongst individuals to justify their actions and construct a story that others will perceive as believable. A fairly well-known case that contains another example of this is the case of Chris Watts. Just hours before this moment, Chris had strangled his wife and then smothered both of his young daughters before disposing of their bodies at an oil site. The detectives are unaware that Chris did this because he had fallen in love with a new woman and needed his family out of the picture before the new relationship could flourish. After failing a lie detector test, Chris felt trapped in the evidence against him, and when the detectives gave him an alternate sequence of events, he jumped on the opportunity and confessed.
I didn't do anything.
Was it an accident?
There was no accident. I don't know if there was an accident in the house. I wasn't there for it.
It's a big deal if it's an accident, because we can work with that, Chris.
No.
And I think that's maybe what happened.
I did not cause an accident. I didn't do anything to my wife and kids.
These are your baby girls. And you have not shed one tear over them not being around. We know that something happened to all three of them. But I want to know, did something happen to these baby girls first that you had to take into your own hands and deal with?
You had to clean it up for us, Shanann.
Chris, you gotta tell us. There's something that happened to these baby girls. I feel like you cleaned up for her. I feel like that's the type of guy that you are. Did you do that to all three of them?
I did not do anything to these kids. Not do anything.
What did Shanann do to them? Tell us, Chris. Chicks are crazy.
Can I talk to my dad or something?
Absolutely.
Come.
Do you want to bring him in here?
No, I just need to talk to my dad. Like, flew across the country.
Hey, Chris,
I can't.
how about this? If we brought your dad in here, would you please tell him what happened?
We'll step out. Okay?
Can you use a few minutes with him?
Okay.
I heard like a little commotion upstairs, but I didn't think anything of it.
Mm-hmm.
Did she kill him? They're blue.
Both of them.
Yeah.
She choked both of them to death.
I freaked out in the champagne.
As alluded to previously, this admission was completely made up. He later admitted that his wife Shanann did not murder his children and that he snapped before committing familicide. Anyway, back to the main subject of this video. Scott had just admitted that he killed Deborah, but he was quick to create the narrative that Deborah was an extremely abusive wife, which caused him to lose his mind and murder her. Following this confession, Scott Jones was officially arrested and charged for the murder of Deborah DePinto. Scott did not enter a plea deal and was placed in custody without bond. Deborah's autopsy report later confirmed that the cause of death was strangulation. Based on the evidence presented, it appeared that Scott Jones's actions were deliberate, as there were more measures that he could have taken to prevent her death. He demonstrated no interest in stopping, and the video footage indicated that he had plenty of time to have called for help and contact 911. After being escorted to his cell, Scott appeared devoid of any remorse for his actions, a striking difference from his behavior when they first arrived at the trailer park.
You've got to help my wife. You've got to help my wife.
They got
my whole life, dude. Please help her. Please. Oh my God.
Detectives believed that this abrupt change in demeanor could undermine his claim that the act was not premeditated. Following Scott's arrest, District Attorney Adam Kendall began building a case against Scott. To lay a solid foundation, Kendall reached out to the friends and family of Deborah DePinto. His aim was to gain a deeper insight into Deborah's character and the nature of her relationship with Scott. People close to the couple characterized Scott as being overly controlling and emotionally abusive towards Deb. This behavior reportedly escalated in the final year of the relationship, with Scott threatening her on several occasions. Despite Scott's behavior, there was no signs of physical abuse. In instances of domestic violence, it is frequently observed that the abuser initially exhibits verbal aggression, which over time may escalate into physical abuse. Scott's trial began in December of 2019. During the trial, the prosecution argued that the murder was premeditated and deliberate. They also filed a motion, based upon a thorough examination of all of the evidence, that Scott should be formally charged with first-degree murder. The defense, on the other hand, claimed Scott's actions were hasty, impulsive, and reckless, and therefore should not be classified as first-degree murder. Friends and acquaintances of the couple were invited by the prosecutor to share their testimonies in an effort to demonstrate that Scott's actions were premeditated rather than impulsive. Mark Rose, a friend of the couple, testified that during a conversation with Scott in 2017, Scott spoke about Deborah leaving the marriage. Mark clarified that while Scott never directly expressed an intention to harm Deborah, the intent was clear to him from Jones's inflection, tone, and body language. Mark said it was clear what he was talking about. Another friend, Heather Pellichoud, testified that Scott said to her, "I'll whack her over the head and put her in the ground," when referring to Deborah. Another friend named Ryan Worley stated that about a week leading up to Deborah's death, he overheard Scott say that he had friends that owed him favors and could have her taken out. Not only were these testimonies damning, but the forensic pathologist Dr. Daniel Lingenfelter, who performed the autopsy on Deborah, also took to the stand to provide testimony on the full details of Deborah's autopsy. He said that it was determined that Deborah died due to what is referred to as homicidal asphyxiation, a medical term for strangulation with a possible smothering element. He concluded his analysis by stating that he couldn't totally eliminate the possibility that an element of smothering occurred. The full details of Deborah's autopsy report were actually so gruesome that one of the jurors fainted in court. On December 20th, 2019, Scott Jones was convicted for the first-degree murder of Deborah DePinto. He was sentenced to 48 years at the Colorado State Penitentiary. He was also sentenced to an additional year in prison for child abuse for taking his 11-year-old son Michael to see his mother's dead body.